Welcome to First Unitarian Church, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and pursue the common good. We welcome you in your brokenness and in your wholeness, no matter who you have been, who you are, or who you are becoming. We greet you today with love.
And our chalice lighter today is Blake Bynum. It was Blake's 13th birthday 2 days ago. So please join me in wishing Blake a very happy birthday. And we're so happy that he can be with us today to light our chalice. Take it away.
We light this chalice as a symbol of our sacred time together. The burning chalice represents the light of reason and science, the warmth of loving community, and the cleansing heat of justice and the flame of hope.
Thank you. Happy birthday. Well, this is the time of year when, if we were meeting in person, at some point, either during or just after the service, we would distribute guest at your table boxes for people to take home. Guest at your table is a long-standing holiday tradition here at First Unitarian and in Unitarian Universalist congregations around the country. In a nutshell, people place the boxes on their tables, and over the course of several weeks, they put their spare change or larger donations into the box as they remember the work of the UU Service Committee and the people they serve and work with all around the world. Well, of course, this year we can't hand you a box, but this morning in chapel, children learned how to make their own, and in upcoming editions of the newsletter and on our Facebook page, we'll be posting a link to a template for anyone who'd like to make their own guest at your table box. Now, the box itself doesn't really matter that much, of course. An empty tissue container covered with stickers and glitter would work just as well. And who doesn't want a bunch of glitter all over their house? What matters is that we're contributing to the larger social justice mission of our UU faith. While most in our congregation are familiar with the guest at your table tradition, you may not know all that much about the UU Service Committee and the critical work that it does in countries all around the world, including right here in this country. During our service today, we'll hear from Lana Henson, our congregation's liaison to the UUSC, and through pre-recorded videos, we'll be hearing directly from UUSC staff. It's our hope that by the end of today's service, you'll have a much better understanding of the true meaning behind guest at your table and a better appreciation of the importance of UUSC membership. We'll start with this introduction from UUSC President, Reverend Mary Catherine Morin, and other committee officers and organizers.
UUSC is an 80-year-old international human rights organization grounded in the principles of Unitarian Universalism and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
UUSC partners with over 50 locally led grassroots organizations around the world to advance human rights.
We work with communities affected by natural disasters and humanitarian crises, including ethnic minorities facing a campaign of genocide in Burma.
We partner with First Indigenous peoples to advance their right to self-determination in systematically addressing the loss of their homes, their livelihoods, and their cultures due to the impacts of climate change.
And we support the right to safety, dignity, and justice for Central Americans in Central America, along the migration route, and in the United States.
We can only do this work because of the support of individuals and congregations like you. Please join us.
Our opening music is from our gray hymnal, from our teal hymnal, number 1021. It's Lean on Me, You Know It, words and music by Bill Withers, courtesy of the Minnesota Valley UU Fellowship. I'm going to put up a slide and it will show the lyrics, so you are welcome and encouraged to sing along at home.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
And at this time, we have a story for all ages from the UUSC, in which we are introduced to the 4 guests at our table that will be hosting this holiday season. We're going to be meeting each one of these in more detail in the next 4 Sundays. But here's your first introduction.
Hi, friends. In today's story, I want to introduce you to 4 people who live in very different parts of the world, but who are all working for fairness, respect, and justice. Even though we don't have a chance to meet them in person, I want you to imagine they are coming over for dinner with you and your family. Think of them as a dinner guest, telling you an interesting story over a big plate of your favorite food. All over the country, other kids like you are imagining the same dinner party and learning about the same people as part of a program called Guest at Your Table. The program is a chance to learn about 4 courageous people making a difference in their communities. This year, the 4 people we're going to meet are Adela, Mark, Chief Sherelle, and Suja. First, I want to introduce you to Adela, who lives in Guatemala. Over the past several years, the area Adela lives in has had a lot of people migrate or leave to go to another country. Many people are having to leave because there aren't enough jobs or enough food. Unfortunately, not having enough food to survive is not considered a good enough reason for someone to be welcomed into the United States, and many people are turned away and forced to return to Guatemala. Adela works to support people in the country so that the conditions are better and more fair. She also supports people who've been forced to return after migrating, who face the difficulty of returning to their homes after being away for many months or even years. Adela especially helps kids and teenagers who are returning to Guatemala. Next, I want to tell you about Mark, a scientist in the Marshall Islands. The Marshall Islands are a small chain of islands in the Pacific Ocean that are experiencing environmental damages, making it more and more difficult to live there. Because of climate change or human-made damages to the environment, the sea is at a higher level than it used to be, and flooding is becoming worse and worse. In his work, Mark teams up with members of his community in the Marshall Islands to collect information about the flooding and safe drinking water. This information is used to help build protections so that people do not have to leave their homes, and also help community members determine when flooding might become bad enough that they do have to move to a higher location or to a different country entirely. Some of these choices are hard to make, but it helps when people have all the information they need to be able to make the best decision they can for themselves. The third person I want to share with you about is Chief Sherrill, the leader of an Indian tribe in southern Louisiana, which can trace its ancestors back to the very first people we know of that lived in the area. Like Mark, Chief Sherrill is facing damages to her home from climate change and other human-caused activity. Being along the Louisiana coast, Chief Sherrill's community is losing land to the water, and the increase in salt water is also damaging trees and the land they use for hunting and farming. In the face of these challenges, Chief Sherrill is fighting for her people and lands. She works together with others to tell people what is happening to her community and advocate for support so they can build the protections they need to protect the land. Lastly, I want to introduce you to Suja, who's from Burma, which is also known as Myanmar. This is a country in Southeast Asia that borders China, Thailand, and India. Burma has a huge diversity of ethnic groups, people who practice similar traditions to each other. But the groups that have smaller populations face a lot of discrimination, which is limitations on their freedom and even danger. For example, Suja practices a different religion than the majority of people in the country, and because of this, he was prevented from completing school in Burma. When he protested and asked for a chance to continue with school, he was arrested and held in jail for more than a week. He was only a teenager when this happened. After he was let out of jail, he was afraid for his life and left the country. It was difficult to find services and build a new life elsewhere, but when he eventually did, he worked with others to create an organization supporting other refugees going through similar struggles. Together, they're creating a community that helps each other, even though they're far away from home. I hope these stories were a chance to learn about the challenges this year's 4 guests are facing and how they're fighting back for what is fair and what is right. Through Guest at Your Table, your congregation and other congregations around the country are helping to provide these guests with the resources to do their work. Together, we can make a better and fairer world. Thank you.
Now, this time we have a personal reflection from our worship associate, Lana Henson, who has been our longtime, maybe you can tell us how many years, liaison to the UUSC and coordinator of the Guest at Your Table program. Lana.
Okay. tell you how many years. I'm not really sure. I inherited this from Jerome Simpson, who was our longtime liaison to the UUSC. And I think I took it over in 1985, I think. Anyhow, as you've heard, UUSC is the social justice arm of our faith. UUSC collaborates with grassroots organizations and movements who are advancing our shared human rights goals on the ground. We inspire, equip, and sustain spiritually grounded activism for justice, offering a continuum of educational, skill building, and experiential opportunities. Although UUSC operates with the Unitarian Universalist Association, they take no money from them. UUSC is supported by memberships and donations, which brings me to why I am speaking to you. Today, November 22nd, we will begin UUSC's biggest fundraising campaign, Guests at Your Table. In normal times, each family would have a small cardboard box to place on your dining room table to feed with money at meals in order to help UUSC help others at home and around the world. This year is so different. And I think it's even a little bit better because we got to see firsthand the 4 guests that we would be feeding. Normally, their pictures would just appear on the little box, but this way you get to see them and hear their stories. Our church youth are having a contest to design a Guest at Your Table box with a different one highlighted each week from now until the end of December. You may donate through the regular channels. Just designate your check for UUSC. If your donation is $40 or more, you automatically become a member and you receive their newsletter. I don't know if you can see that, but this is called Rights Now. I just got mine this week. In these hard times, when we are confined to our homes, let's all generously feed these virtual guests at our table. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Deborah Shin. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees and a member of the Social Justice Committee and the Health and Safety Committee. Every Sunday, we take an offering. All the cash and designated checks from that offering go directly to an external nonprofit organization doing good work in our community, our Change for Change partners. This month, our Change for Change partner is Free to Live Animal Sanctuary. Free to Live is a nonprofit sanctuary for stray, abandoned, and mistreated dogs and cats. It is the largest no-kill sanctuary in Oklahoma. While we listen to the offertory now, you may wish to make a donation to our Change for Change partner. You can use a credit card through our website, or this might be a good time to find your checkbook, write out a check, and put it aside to mail to First Unitarian tomorrow morning. Let today's offering reflect our highest aspirations for the work of this church in the world.
From the light of days remembered, burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our
This is a reading of a poem called We Refugees by Benjamin Zephaniah, who is a Rastafarian British poet, the child of immigrants. We Refugees. I come from a musical place where they shoot me for my song, and my brother has been tortured by my brother in my land. I come from a beautiful place where they hate my shade of skin. They don't like the way I pray, and they ban free poetry. I come from a beautiful place where girls cannot go to school. There you are told what to believe, and even young boys must grow beards. I come from a great old forest. I think it is now a field, and the people I once knew are not there now. We can all be refugees. Nobody is safe. All it takes is a mad leader or no rain to bring forth food. We can all be refugees. We can all be told to go. We can be hated by someone for being someone. I come from a beautiful place where the valley floods each year, and each year the hurricane tells us that we must keep moving on. I come from an ancient place. All my family were born there, and I would like to go there, but I really want to live. I come from a sunny, sandy place where tourists go to darken skin, and dealers like to sell guns there. I just can't tell you what's the price. I am told I have no country now. I am told I am a lie. I am told that modern history books may forget my name. We can all be refugees. Sometimes it only takes a day. Sometimes it only takes a handshake or a paper that is signed. We all came from refugees. Nobody simply just appeared. Nobody's here without a struggle. And why should we live in fear of the weather or the troubles? We all came here from somewhere. This is a sermon from UUSC Congregational Representative Reverend Laura Randall, and it's called The Meaning of Home.
There is a large stain on the bathroom ceiling, peeling wallpaper in the bedroom, and the linoleum witnessed the Nixon administration. My home is filled with creaks, clutter, and too much dog hair, and I love it. I know my family and I are among the most privileged in the world right now. I have work and the ability to do that work from home. I have running water, electricity, and the space outside for a few raised vegetable beds. In some ways, my physical world has gotten so very small in these last months. Seeing the same rooms and the same patch of earth so consistently, unceasingly, is a new experience for me. The urge to go somewhere, anywhere, is strong. And yet, I've never had more appreciation for the space my family and I call home. These unremarkable walls keep us warm and hold all the gratitude and anxiety these times have created in us. With all the uncertainty and upheaval surrounding us now, I've never been more aware of the importance of home, the importance of a place of shelter, stability, and belonging. Not all of us have this experience of home. For some of us, home is or was anything but stable and welcoming. Home can be dangerous. And I know there are some of us who work essential jobs who've had to leave their homes to keep their families safe from this virus. There are also those of us for whom that kind of separation isn't an option, and therefore whole families are bearing the risk of exposure. Some of us never feel safe in our homes, knowing that at any moment, state agents could burst through the door to arrest us or kill us. And then there are the many of us who find ourselves in the liminal space of no permanent home at all. Home is complicated. It is a place and it is a longing. It is a physical structure and it is a community of people. It is an anchor and an imagined ideal. Home is a fundamental necessity and an evolving act of creativity. Home is the foundation upon which we build our lives and the outcome of countless generative acts of love and repair. The work of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC, is fundamentally about home in so many ways. This has been true since our founding 80 years ago, when the Unitarian Service Committee partnered with Jewish refugees and political dissidents in Europe in an effort to get as many people fleeing the Nazi regime as possible to safety. Today, our work focuses on climate-forced displacement, crisis response, and migrant justice. These issues may seem unrelated at first glance, but they are, at their core, all about home. The right to security within our homes, the right to restore our homes when they've been ravaged by natural or human-made disaster, and the right to seek a new home elsewhere. The 4 UUSC partners highlighted in this year's Guest at Your Table program each share stories that are primarily about the homes they are fighting for. Be that the villages they are trying to salvage from the effects of climate change, the communities they are trying to hold together as they navigate disaster and persecution, or the necessity of finding a new place to call home away from unremitting violence and economic devastation.
Chief Sherelle Parfait Dada, chief of the Grand Kalu Dulek Band of the Biloxi Chitimacha Choctaw Tribe in southern Louisiana, has been advocating for her community for as long as she can remember. She has seen the land her tribe calls home drastically change in her lifetime as rising sea levels, oil and gas extraction, and natural disasters have claimed homes and destroyed the farmlands her tribe depends on for sustenance. Recently, Chief Sherelle joined with other First Nations and Indigenous peoples facing similar losses and damages and risks of climate displacement to take their fight all the way to the United Nations. Chief Sherelle explains, "We have joined together with our Alaska Native relatives to bring awareness to the damages caused by greed and selfishness with a complete disregard for Mother Earth and all living beings. We are showing the world that you do not have to just sit by and watch our planet, our health, and lifeways be destroyed." Thousands of miles away, Mark Steggy, climate researcher with UUSC partner organization Joe Jiggum, is working on similar climate issues facing communities in the Marshall Islands. As a native Marshallese and an Indigenous scientist, Mark is committed to centering his people's knowledge, experiences, and wisdom in understanding and addressing the impacts that the climate crisis is affecting on their home. Collaboration is key to handling complexity, and so I've been motivated to develop the tools for collaboration by sharing and adapting both Western and Indigenous knowledge to promote innovation and identity, says Mark. Just as UUSC partners with those to save their homes, we also partner with those who have been forced to find a new home elsewhere.
Since 2017, over 700,000 Rohingya Muslims from the Rakhine State in Burma have been forced to flee their homes into neighboring countries due to the genocide perpetrated by the Burmese military. Suja Karimuddin was compelled to escape his home as a teenager after being detained and tortured by Burmese state officials. Suja struggles with a longing to return to his homeland, but has found strength within the Rohingya diaspora community, knowing that even in the depths of loss, they can be a bit of home for one another. We try to build that sense of community wherever we are, wherever we live, Suja says. Towards that end, Suja co-founded the Elam Empowerment Community Center, now a UUSC partner organization. Elam Empowerment is a Rohingya-led community center based in Malaysia that conducts youth capacity building trainings and facilitates food distribution for Rohingya refugees in and around Kuala Lumpur. According to Suja, the goal of Elam Empowerment is to provide a safe space for Rohingya refugees to come and breathe, a space where they can come and feel free.
Many Central American migrants are seeking a place they can feel free as well. Residents of Central American countries such as Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua are still dealing with the aftermath of intense civil wars, some of which lasted decades, and which targeted the indigenous communities of those countries along with poor farmers. To this day, extractive mining and drilling industries, drought exacerbated by climate change, and deadly domestic and state-sponsored violence are forcing people from their homes and across borders. Women, LGBTQI+ people, and indigenous communities are particularly vulnerable to these factors that lead people to have to build a home elsewhere. Adela Ramirez, a human rights advocate with UUSC's partner in Guatemala, Asociación POPNOG, says, "The majority of people here live in conditions that are not good, and poverty prevents them from fully living their lives. People cross the border in search of new opportunities for their families. That is why we at POPNOG always say that migrating is an act of love."
Migration is an act of love. And this act of love is being met by increasing cruelty and xenophobia by the United States. Decades of draconian and deadly U.S. immigration policies are culminating in crowded detention centers, which provide ideal breeding grounds for COVID-19, a near complete dismantling of the asylum system, the destruction of a humanitarian aid station in the Arizona desert by Border Patrol agents, the dismantling of due process and deportation proceedings, and still the continuation of family separation. Not only are these actions cowardly, hard-hearted, and small-minded, they are also a fundamental denial of a truth that could not be clearer. We are all connected. Those of us privileged enough to currently have relatively safe and stable homes are reflecting on the centrality of such places in our lives, especially now. Does the possibility of losing this home seem as distant as it once did? Can we imagine the results of climate change making our homes uninhabitable in the near future? Or what about government policies making it impossible to stay? This is already the reality for some of us. And for others of us, these potentialities no longer seem improbable. This is a lot to take in. The question now is, can we channel this uncertainty, this fear, into empathy and commitment? Can we approach these challenges with a spirit of collaboration and determination? Can we recognize our interdependence enough to realize that our homes, our health, and our lives are all inexorably connected? I think we can. We must. Remember poet Benjamin Zephaniah's words. We can all be refugees. Sometimes it only takes a day. Sometimes it only takes a handshake or a paper that is signed. We can all become refugees. Nobody simply just appeared. Nobody's here without a struggle. And why should we live in fear of the weather or the troubles? We all came here from somewhere. Nobody simply just appeared. We all came from somewhere. This earth is our home. Some of us live on the same patch of land our ancestors called home for millennia. Others of us have called this land home for a few generations, if that. Some of us long for a distant home we remember from our youth, and others of us have always lived in the town we now call home. Regardless of the miles between us, This earth is our home. The distress of our planet and the turmoil of our societies, these are the circumstances we find ourselves in, regardless of what we wish were true instead. Our relationships to our homes have dramatically intensified this year. Do we have the courage to turn that intensity into compassion? Can we feel, not just know, but feel the primacy of the value that everyone, everywhere, has the right to self-determination and safety in their homes? Some essential part of everyone longs for a sense of peace, a sense of belonging, a sense of rightness that can be described in no way other than home. At UUSC, we will continue to honor that longing and fight for the right of people to claim, create, and be home. I want to lift up Chief Sherelle, Mark, Suja, and Adela once again. I want to acknowledge both the loss and the resilience in their stories. What home means is changing and evolving for many of us. With courage, imagination, and determination, the home we help co-create with all of Earth's people will be one of more kindness, more gratitude, and more justice. Please join me in saying, Amen and blessed be.
Before we move on to our closing hymn, I'd like to pause for a moment to remember the victims of the pandemic. In our own congregation, a number of our members and friends have tested positive for the virus or have been directly exposed and are needing to quarantine. We are grateful that no one, as far as we know, has needed to be hospitalized. And thankfully, many have been asymptomatic or have recovered. But nonetheless, the suffering associated with this illness and the fear are very real. As of yesterday, the number of COVID-19 cases in the United States topped 12 million. And the gruesome death count has topped 256,000. In our own state, as of yesterday, there were 171,000 people who had tested positive for COVID, and we've had at least 1,624 deaths. These numbers are both unimaginable and truly horrifying. 256,000 lives. Of course, a disproportionate percentage of these were among the most marginalized in our society. Black folks, Indigenous people, people of color, poor people, people living with chronic illness, older people, people with insufficient health care. 256,000 unique, precious individuals who, but for leaders who have chosen politics over public health, people who place their own personal liberties over the lives and well-being of others, and centuries of oppression and neglect. 256,000 people who might be here with us today, preparing to celebrate the holidays with their families, contributing to their communities in countless ways. These lives will never be returned to us, but we can honor them by remembering them and refusing to give in to the ways of ignorance and irresponsibility by wearing a mask, by not attending in-person group events, including worship services, by following the guidelines of science, and by demanding life-saving measures and mandates from our elected leaders. I'm going to ring the bell 6 times. Each time represents approximately 43,000 lives. In memory, in solidarity, we resolve to keep up the fight against ignorance, against reckless individualism, and for the health and well-being of ourselves, our loved ones, and countless unknown others. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing hymn is number 403 from the Gray Hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition. It's called Spirit of Truth. We don't sing it very often, but it's awfully nice. Music by Horace Westwood and by Lowell Mann, courtesy of our friends at the UU Church of Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Spirit of truth, of life, of power, we bring ourselves as gifts to thee. Oh, bind our hearts this sacred hour in faith and hope and charity. Spirit of truth, of life, of power, we bring ourselves as gifts to thee. Oh, bind our hearts this sacred hour in faith and hope and charity.
Blake, would you extinguish our chalice for us?
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of love and community which burns in our hearts.
Thank you. We close our service today with these words from theologian and previous president of Star King School for Ministry, Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. This work is called Choose to Bless the World. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question. What will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice, anesthetization, or evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that what is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude, to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community. The endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith, the life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting. A reminder that after our service today, we'll have our virtual coffee hour. So please take a break, and come back into the coffee hour. Our DLRE, Tim Atkins, will be host today, as Nathan Boone, our Congregational Life Coordinator, and I will be over at the Newcomers Orientation. I'll be sure to come join the rest of you as soon as that's over, though. Also, a reminder that this Tuesday is our Interfaith Thanksgiving service at 7 o'clock, and the Zoom information has been posted in our newsletter and on our Facebook page. If you can't get access to that for any reason, please call the office and we'll get you that information. You're also reminded that today is the deadline to get in your selfies of yourself holding up your signs of what you're grateful for this year. Please get those to Nathan Boone at membership@oneuc.org or post them into the thread on our Facebook page by the end of the day today. If they come in later, we can't guarantee they'll be included. But if you get those in today, those will be part of the slideshow that will be a part of our wonderful Interfaith Thanksgiving service this year. And again, we found out just fairly recently that Mayor David Holt will be our keynote speaker. So please be sure to join us for that important event. In the meantime, be safe, be well. Blessings on you all, beloved community. Until we're together again. Blessings.